Hey guys, this is Marcus Pulis, and this is Aquarian Anarchy. You'll recognize Chad Lemoyne and Nico over here. And we have another guest this week. We have a good friend of mine named Tag Griffin, who runs an organization called Hearts in Hand. And there will be links below. Please support them. That's the most important thing that I will say for the rest of this time is these people need help, they need your money, and they need to help the homeless to get some food. And these are real people on the ground without government aid going in and helping people. And they give us a chance to put our money where our mouths is. So I want to go ahead and get that. Go to that PayPal link I've got down below and give them money right now. I don't care if you stop this and go do it and then come back. The most important thing is to go give them some money because they do good work and they need all the help that they can get.
Every $2 helps.
That's right. Every single bit. So
PayPal takes some of it, so that's why I said $2.
You're right. So I wanted to give a little bit of introduction. I met Tag at the Libertarian convention in Indiana. He's friends with Bill Levin, who runs the First Church of Cannabis, and he was running for the governor's position. Bill was, and Tag was there and supporting him. And long story short, I wound up kind of getting on with Bill. He seemed like a really good dude, so I wanted to get Adam Kokesh some exposure. So I got Adam to come to the church and talk to them about him running for president and all of that stuff, and heard what Tag does. And it made me mad because there were things like the cops not letting them deliver food to the homeless and those kinds of things. And it just really infuriated me. And I live here in Indiana, which is where Hearts in Hand is. And so I wanted to do whatever I could to help them. So I've gone out with Tag once and passed out food to the homeless. But we found that it was much more helpful to them because they know what they're doing, to just bring them as much food as we can, to bring them things and support what they're doing. So I want to start, Tag, with how did you get started with Hearts in Hand? And I'll let you take it from there.
Okay. You guys are freezing up a little bit on my side. I hope I'm not doing the same to you. But what started out was a gentleman posted on Facebook. Do what?
I said I can hear you.
Okay. What started out, a gentleman posted on Facebook showing a picture of an eviction notice under a bridge, June 8th of 2017, telling the home had to leave there. And he needed help moving our friends on the street out from under the bridge. Well, 60 people offered to come help, and literally I am the only one that showed up. After talking to a few of our friends and everything, I noticed they're just like us, just some of them are on hard times. Yes, there are some alcoholics, there are some addicts, there's some mental health issues. The first guy I met, his name was James, and he was out there because he lost his job when there were no jobs to be found. He had a good job working at the hospital. He was a contractor doing cleaning, and they released the contract on the people, so he got laid off. Well, so he filed unemployment for a whopping $95 a week. Now, you can barely eat for $95 a week, let alone pay your rent, your utilities, gas, all of that.
Right.
So ultimately, he ended up on the streets to no real fault of his own. He's back inside now, glad to say, and he's actually doing well. I've spoke to him a couple times. But that's what originally started me doing this. And then we just started going out every Saturday serving meals. We do a Christmas meal. We actually do a stationary Thanksgiving meal. When I say go out, we hit 14 different camps every Saturday night. We average anywhere from 100 to 130 people every Saturday night that we serve a home cooked meal.
That's just amazing. And I like I said, I went out with, and to be clear, my daughter and my wife went as well, but we only just did the first part of it because, again, these guys have it down to a science. They're making trays, and when he says home cooked meal, we're talking about, like, at times there is meat in a noodle and with vegetables, and they actually do a really good job at supplying a hot meal. Can you imagine if you were a homeless person on the street and somebody handed you a three-course meal in hot? So I think what they're doing is amazing.
Every one of our meals comes with a bottle of water, cookies, usually at least cookies as a snack, some kind of vegetable, and the vegetable may very well be mixed in with the actual meal. But every meal consists of usually either chicken or beef in it. Sometimes we'll throw in pork. It just depends on what's donated to us at the time. We have a great place in Indianapolis called the Meat Shop of Indianapolis. Donates us 40 pounds of chicken, 40 pounds of hamburger every week like clockwork. They've been dedicated to us since we've started. During Thanksgiving, the first Thanksgiving meal we did, we served over 200 people. And they supplied about 10 of the turkeys that we used for that. Our last one, which was this past November, we served a little over 400 people. And we went through over 25 turkeys for that dinner. And our volunteers helped out. I mean, my wife makes the dinner today. It comes to our meal. Volunteers kick it up. They actually make the meals. They help cook the turkeys because there's no way we can cook 25 turkeys in time for it to still be good at the end of the day. And we set up a spot and we served there. We did it downtown right in front of the city county building.
Do you find that it's I guess easier to maybe get help around the like Thanksgiving and Christmas time frame, because that's typically when people are kind of feeling like a sense of, like, I don't know, guilt, duty, obligation, or something like that, and generosity. Yeah, genuine generosity, but also sometimes there's some of that. Whereas like this time of year, the dead of the summer, or like in January and February when it's really cold, that it's a little harder to get volunteers and get people donating.
Your big charities, I will say yes to that question. Mine, we do have some extra people that step up to the plate during that time period. But if you follow my group, Hearts at Hand Homeless Outreach on Facebook, you'll see that we've got almost 2,000 volunteers. And steadily we have 100, 150 of them on there that always want to help with donations. Some of them will give out cash donations when they're able to. Most of them will supply some of the product. And I don't have a problem either way. I mean, if they prefer to give me a product like 20 pounds of noodles we're getting this weekend from one of our volunteers, it's okay, because then they feel a little more accomplished, because then they know that money's going there. Mm-hmm. Now, we do have a couple drives on occasion, and people actually do give us monetary donations. We just purchased a box truck that we're going to be turning into a food service truck here in the near future, and all of that came through donations. We need more donations because just the tires for that alone is going to cost me $1,000. So our people usually step up throughout the whole time. During COVID, I thought it was going to be really hard, but nobody backed down. Everybody still stayed out and helped like they always have.
That's awesome.
Have the homeless seen an impact from COVID?
There's a few, and they usually get rushed in. For a while, they were setting up temporary camps. And like Garfield Park had one for a little while in their gym. And then I think the neighborhood complained and they moved them over to another location. So during COVID, they tried to get as many of them as possible inside. They didn't order them inside. So there were still several camps out here. Very few of the camps that I help out are affected. I mean, like I said, we average 100, 130 people every week. And if you look at the HUD numbers, supposedly that's how many. There's about 150 that are actually outside on the street, and I know that to be a lie. They say there's 1,400 homeless in Indianapolis. That's about 10% of what is actually homeless in Indianapolis.
Wow.
So, I mean, when you're out here on the street, you see it more than they say the numbers. So, some of the homeless were affected. They were in the hospitals. They were in the hotels. They're trying to rush some of the homeless into housing right now, which is all good and fine, but they're doing it wrong, in my opinion. They want the housing to be the first step. Well, if you're going to do that, then you better make sure you follow steps.
We lose him.
Yeah.
We
I don't know what happened. Can you see me?
Yeah, there you are.
You're back.
Much better now.
Okay, I don't know what happened there. Somebody
So
said
you had something you wanted to
West.
You're
So
back.
if you're going to do housing first, then you need to step up and also do a couple steps behind that and follow through with it. Some of our friends, they've been on the streets so long. We have a friend named Tony. He's been on the streets for 8 years. He's I believe he's Vietnamese. He's got him a little garden. Marcus, you ever talk to Bill, ask him about Tony and he'll tell you. The guy is awesome. But a lot of our friends don't remember your basic needs. Laundry, they don't have a place outside to do laundry. A resume, if they actually want to get a job. Now, who wants to hire a homeless person because they don't have a place to take a shower, do their laundry? There are places that will allow that, but you can usually only go once a week. So it causes issues. I got to switch this around so I can see everybody. Sorry, guys.
It's no good.
You're okay.
Don't worry about
I
it.
mean,
do you have a
podcast.
do you
To
have
answer
a,
your question, yes, there are a few. There are a few that have been affected by the COVID that actually got COVID, but mostly no. We have a group here called the Homeless Police, which are actually some of IMPD that will go around and check on people and make sure they're okay. They're pretty decent for
cops.
the homeless. Yeah, pretty decent for cops. I was trying to be polite there.
Yeah,
Nico, what you
don't
got?
give a shit.
Go ahead, Nico.
Oh, so have you had any other plans to help provide for the homeless other than just providing food? Do you guys have like another system to try and provide them besides the housing, like other ways to keep them and get them on like a straight edge program, if you will, or something along the lines of that?
Well, currently right now, meals aren't the only thing that we do provide. I mean, if somebody needs shoes, we'll get them shoes. If they need clothing, we try to hand out clothing. Matter of fact, if you look back here, that's all clothing donations to give out to our friends on the street right now. So,
Right on.
we lost Nico. He must have
My
got
bad.
a friend request this time. But yes, we do offer clothing. We've taken several to rehab. We've taken some to the doctors. We've paid for some medication. My long-term goal, if I can ever get it, is to get a big piece of property, 10 to 20 acres. I would like to have to where we can actually build a 3-phase situation there where you have your tent city, you have an actual shelter, and you have a tiny house village. And have them progress up as they go to show that they actually want to better themselves. Because, I mean, when people think of homeless, they think of nothing but drug addicts, thieves, and alcoholics. And that's just simply not the case. Once you actually get out here and talk to them, I mean, they put on their pants just like me and you do.
Yeah, for sure. Have you ran into, because like I had mentioned earlier, you ran into some police interfering. Have you seen, this is where my mind goes. I'm a voluntarist. I see government as the enemy. Have you seen government interfering with your efforts beyond the cop thing in Fort Wayne we were talking about?
Not personally. I had one female officer once stop.
Is that him?
They keep zapping us. Yeah.
No, okay.
I don't know what happened there, but
Go ahead.
I had one female officer once stop me and tried to say that we were blocking the road. Well, we were in one vehicle in a 3-lane road, and they were trying to say we were blocking the road, and if she caught us again, she would tow us in. But other than that, I've never been bothered. Matter of fact, this past weekend, we were on the circle serving a meal. Let's see if I can get this switched again. We were on the circle serving a meal, and a police officer pulled up behind us, got out of his vehicle, his unmarked vehicle, walked up to us, seen what we were doing, seen our signs on our vehicles, and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize who you guys were. Continue doing what you're doing."
Nice. That's good.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Awesome.
It's good to hear
yeah.
too, actually. I mean, because a lot of times there's, I don't know, just seems. I saw one time there was this is just recently. There's a lady, on the side of the road. She was waiting to, she was asking for stuff, at like an on ramp or whatever. But I drove by from another direction, and then as I was coming back around to the direction where I could have actually like interfaced with her, there was a cop there, and he was like, getting out, and like it looked like he was like going through her stuff and like asking her for stuff and everything. And so and it just seems like more often than not that's what I see is that sort of, I don't want to call it harassing them, but seems like they're harassing
Chad,
them.
are you here in Indianapolis?
No, I live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So, and Nico lives in Chicago. So we're kind of all over.
Different states, you have different issues, different sympathy for our friends on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Indianapolis is fairly decent when it comes to that. But a lot of states, man, I mean, like, look at San Francisco.
Yeah, yeah.
I
was one block over from like
I
the
jump track a lot
area.
Yeah. Yeah. We have in Indianapolis, there's 14,000 homeless. In San Francisco, I can't remember what their numbers were, but there are enough abandoned houses or abandoned buildings, not just houses, but enough abandoned buildings in the United States to where every homeless person could have 18 places to stay.
Right. But yet they continue to build. And this is the problem. I'm sorry, because people will constantly, all you see is government. Well, I'm sorry, government continues to cause trouble. But
easily, it's easy. It's easy to point that out, because at the end of the day, like, since we're having this problem, let's not even say the government. The Queen of England has the ability to pay over for homeless 3 times over. So it's like, I don't want to hear that.
Not only that, but she has like 200 hectares or something like that of land, or something like that. It may be more than that, maybe 2,000. I don't remember what it is. It's a number.
At the end of the day, they still
out of this world.
It's still plenty. It's still more than plenty to help out.
Right. But
I would love.
Go ahead, Tag.
I would love for my dream to come true sometime and me to get the property that I want. Because not only will they get their basic services, what I want in the shelter area is I want a counseling area. And for those who need drug addiction help, I want them to be able to acquire that. I want a place where all the actual faith-based outreaches can come and serve. Now, our group is a non-faith-based outreach. That does not mean I don't believe in God. What that means is we don't judge. We're not going to sit here and judge. If you're screwing up, I'm going to tell you you're screwing up. Faith-based outreaches won't do that. On the place that I get, I mean, I want to be able to have Skype in there so they can try to reconnect with their families that they've lost touch with. So they can show their families, hey, I'm getting better. I'm getting back on my feet. Love me again. Because a lot of our friends are not only unsheltered, but they're unloved. Well, not in our case, because we love them all. But I want to be able to get like a little lake there with fish in it for them to be able to do some recreational stuff. I want to put a garden in there so they can learn how to do that. I want trades companies to come in there and help build our tiny buildings and have our friends on the street assist with that so they can learn a trade. Not just a job. I don't want them going to McDonald's and flipping burgers, which, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good starter job to build you up with responsibilities.
It's not the goal.
But if you can learn a trade, you've got a job for life.
Right.
And I mean, we've helped get people their ID and their driver's license. These are all things that are basic people need and actually deserve to have. And when some of these raids go on at the homeless camps, when DPW comes in there, they take everything.
Right.
You have very few minutes to come gather your stuff. A lot of them have lost their medication. A lot of them have lost their ID. So, I mean, they how do you make a homeless person more homeless? Take all their stuff.
Right.
Right.
Well, and I wanted to ask you, you said, because you said something about being able to reconnect with family and to reconnect with loved ones, to be loved again. And I just wanted to, on an anecdotal level, from a few encounters that I've had, and then from, some other stories that I've heard, I want to see if this, because you have more experience with more people, you have a larger sample size, I guess, so to speak, than I do, to be able to put a more scientific point on this. But I get the sense that people don't really realize how much of a razor's edge a lot of us are between being where we are and being right where they are, because of just a few things that could happen that zero you out and could end up putting you on the street, whether it's a failed marriage, or some other sort of abandonment issue, or a loss of a job at the wrong time in the 0809 crisis, or right now, that sort of thing. Like, there's a lot of this stuff that people, we're so deep in debt, and so many people are living from paycheck to paycheck to pay off debt, that it's not that far of a stretch for a lot of people to be very, very close to ending up in a very similar situation. And a lot of times it's just having enough compassion to recognize that these people are, they're human beings just like any, because it's easy to dehumanize people and to ignore them. But if we could just recognize the humanity, and then help to try to restore what was once there. I want to get kind of your take on that. Is how close is that to accurate, that there are a lot of these folks who are, they're maybe a step or two away from having a lot going for them.
Yeah, that's very accurate. I mean, I'll tell you what, when I first started, let me give you a little bit of background on me. In school, I was a class clown, but I always loved to help people. I always wanted to make people smile. As I got older, I got dumber, just like everybody else. I'm a convicted felon. I spent 19 and a half months in a federal prison camp. If it wasn't for my mother, I would have been on the streets. But I was hooked on cocaine because I worked at a Hispanic bar, and I was a middleman between the dealer and the people buying it, just so I could get mine for free. Once the federal, the feds and everybody else came knocking on my door, it pretty much woke me up. When I got out of prison, I realized I needed to get back to where I was at a younger age. And as I said, if it wasn't for my mother, I would have been homeless when I got out of prison. And I almost ruined her life because she had 2 houses at the time, and I lived.
Is that part of your motivation for doing what you do now?
I lost you for a minute. I don't know why, but I lost you for a minute, Chad.
Yeah, no. I said, is that a large part of the motivation for what you do now? That person.
I've always wanted to help people, and if I can make a person's life better, man, I could tell you a story right now of a couple different people that are off the streets now. One of my friends, his name is JD. When I met him, the first time we went and served him a meal at his camp, he came walking out with a machete because he didn't know who I was. And I got that. I mean, it didn't bother me one bit. He came up strong, protecting his camp with 8 other people in it. You guys hungry? The machete went down. And me and him's been friends ever since. Now, he actually was hooked on heroin, and he's an alcoholic. Well, one day he woke up to the cops pointing guns at him because he was sitting inside a CSX truck that he stole. Doesn't remember doing any of it. He just remembers waking up there. Now he's over 100 days clean from all drugs and alcohol. He's living inside. He's got him a job. He's doing good, all because sometimes it takes rock bottom and then you dig yourself a little deeper before you get out. That was his case. He realized it was time for him to change. And he puts the credit on our organization for helping him do that. I talked to him just 2 days ago. He calls me all the time. We talk. Anytime he feels a struggle, I tell him, look, call me. Don't go back to the way you were. Keep going forward, man. He's trying to reconnect with his kids. And he's slowly doing it. His ex-wife still doesn't trust him right now, which that's a hard thing for house people to actually do, is to start trusting someone on the streets again who's done dirty because they had such a bad life and they fell on drugs. And obviously 9 times out of 10, drugs become theft. Even with your family, you're going to steal your mom's engagement ring if it's going to get you your dope.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's sad, but it's true. And it's not, I mean, it's true with everybody, including people in houses. One of my volunteers, one of her nephews is homeless, and we serve him every Saturday. She checks up on him on occasion. He's a heroin addict, and I mean, he's not ready to change that yet.
Yeah.
And I get that, and I don't judge him for it. I just hope he stays alive till that point where he is ready to change. And I'm going to continue to serve him, because every dime an addict gets, and I'm sure you've seen it before, their money is going to go towards their drug. They'll go without eating. They'll go without clothing and stuff so they can get their feel good back. Well, you know what? They still have to eat, and that's where we come in. We're still going to serve them, whether they're a drug addict, an alcoholic, a felon. We cannot judge, because if we judge, then who are we? I mean,
For sure.
if you believe in the Bible, thou shalt not judge. Plain and simple.
Right. And the thing is, I used to have a mentality, this has been years ago. I used to have a mentality where I was like, I don't want to give them my money because they're going to go get whatever. You know, I'd see somebody alongside the road. They're going to go get drugs. They're going to go get alcohol. And I came to the conclusion, it sounds like a very similar conclusion to what you came to, Tag, but I came to the conclusion that it doesn't matter if, sorry, Nico, you distracted me. It doesn't
matter.
Yeah, right. So it doesn't matter what they do with what I give them. I gave, that's what I had intended to do. What they do with it, if they use it for some other purpose, that's on them. I did a good deed. I gave them whatever it is, the food or the money or the whatever it is. And for me, I'm with you. It's more important to give, because, you know, in our society and where we're sitting now, they don't have a whole lot to turn to. You know, there have been times, like if you get in Indiana, and I don't know other places, but if you get busted with drugs, you lose your assistance. So they're not even getting help for on top of being a drug addict and spending their money on that. They get busted, they lose their assistance, they can't get any assistance. So they can't rely on government.
When I first got out of prison, because my charge is a drug-related charge, I can't apply for food stamps. Not in Indiana.
Exactly. And
my philosophy,
and there are a lot of people
Marcus,
who use that as an
similar.
argument that they want that to be in place, you know, on purpose, because they want it to be some sort of punishment. And I think people lose track of what you said, that like we want people to stay alive long enough to make that turnaround to where they can get themselves where they need to be. And
taking away their benefits, that just creates more recidivism.
Yeah.
If Joe down the street can't get his food stamps to feed his family, he's going to go to the local dope man, get product to go turn around and sell, get caught again, and go right back to jail.
Right.
Hey, isn't this technically a form of cancel culture? Like, you're canceled to the societal benefits. So, like, you go on Twitter and, like, you discuss something that nobody likes, and then, you know, you're canceled, gotcha. And then it's like, you go to jail, you have that one incident, and then it's like, gotcha, now you messed up. And I'm like, I was a path I went through. Like, everybody goes through things. Like, it's really ignorant for us to, like, stay on that simple mind. Like, for when I'm 13, I had a different viewpoint on girls. They had cooties, opposed to not 13, but you know, as 5-year-olds, you see girls as having like cooties, and then like as now you're like, oh well, they don't have cooties. But that's the point. Being is just
figured out them cooties were cool.
right.
Yeah, you're right.
But the point being is that
but Marcus, my philosophy is very similar to yours. I very rarely, I mean, extremely rarely give out money. Okay, because for every dollar I give somebody, I can usually feed 2 people. Or, excuse me, we don't feed the homeless. You feed animals, you feed babies. We serve. So for every $1 or $2 that I give to a person standing there with a sign, I can put that towards a few more dollars and make enough money to serve several different people. So that's, and if I do give $1 to somebody or a $5 bill, once that money leaves my hand, that's no longer mine.
Not your responsibility anymore. Yeah.
If I give Chad $5 and he goes and buys a joint with it, that was his $5. That wasn't my $5. It's up to him to do with what he wants with what money I give him.
For sure. And the thing is, people, one of the things that we've attempted to do, and it's one of the reasons why you were one of the first, believe it or not, Tag, you were one of the first people I thought of when we started doing guests. One of the things that we want to provide, because a lot of voluntarists and libertarians and anarchists like to bitch, but they don't want to do anything about it, is I wanted to offer solutions and ideas for the problems that we see. And so I wanted to have you on because you are boots on the ground. You are doing the work that we talk about wanting to do. You know, you're doing it. Every week you go out and you help people. And people say, well, but you know, this or that will happen in a voluntarist society and we'll have better economy and all that. That's great. But at some point, that shift from statism to a voluntary society is going to happen. And these people are not going to be ready for that transition. And it will take people like you who are already doing it to transition those people into a better society. Because to me, what I've heard through this conversation is, one, your land that you want to have, if we were in a sane world, how you get that land is you move out west where nobody owns shit, and you start a farm, you build your shit because nobody owns it. Under lock, and with that kind of idea, you would just build what you want. And because of that, we have a homeless problem. Mexico doesn't have a homeless problem. You know why? Because they can just build their shit out of anything they see. You know, they can build anywhere. You know, so I think.
heard
Yeah.
Adam has a lot of property. You think I can go up there and do that on his land?
No, but he owns that land, and he has homesteaded that land. But nobody owns something like, I don't remember the exact statistic, but it's somewhere around 80% of the state of Nevada, or somewhere around 80% of that whole state is unowned. And if we were talking about the Old West, you'd be able to just move, build yourself a house, and presto, right, you have land. Now, to answer your question about Adam, if they're willing to work about 2 days a week, and I may be not exact about the contract, but if they're willing to go there and work for free for 2 days a week, they can work something out with Adam. He has absolutely said that he is more than willing to have people come. Now, they have to earn their ability to stay there. They more or less are paying rent with work. So the answer to your question is yeah. What?
I agree with that. With the land that I want, that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to come on there for free and just live off of it. They're going to do something to contribute to the community.
Correct.
Whether it's one day someone cut the grass, the other day someone go out in the garden and pick the peas or the corn.
Tomatoes.
I'm all right with that. Just something help the elderly. Obviously, are past the part of learning a trade. So someone needs to help them out.
For sure.
Have a group of them do the cooking.
Yeah, you could even have some folks just there to talk to the kids and teach the kids stuff that they remember from their past, because there's a lot of this stuff that is just being lost on this generation and the generations to come, that having a couple of elderly folks just spin old yarns would actually be really, 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 really cool and helpful, and give the kids something a little more tangible and more useful, I guess, to spend their time with, and on. That's really interesting. The idea of finding a place. Are you looking at something in Indiana that where you want to find a land to do this sort of thing?
Yeah, that's where I'm based at, and to be honest with you, my wife will not leave Indiana until her parents pass away.
Yeah.
So, and this is where I started my boots on the ground. So this is where I would want to do it, and I would want to do it not far out of town, because you're still gonna. I mean, you don't want. Look, this isn't going to be Auschwitz. I'm not going to keep them in there. If they want to go out to town, I'm not going to stop them from that. What I am going to stop are the drugs from coming into the camp. Now, they want to bring a joint, fine, go smoke your joint. Keep the Katie shit out of my camp. You want to get high, go somewhere else for the day, and then come back and sleep it off.
Mm-hmm.
But the next day, plan on doing some work to make up for your space.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and ultimately, it would be your land. Ultimately, you are helping people out.
Right.
So your land, your rules. I mean, you can make whatever fucking rule you want on your land. They have to follow your rules. It's the end of the day.
Right.
I have a question about so like this is something that generally my approach has been either with the individual help. You know, my daughter and I have gone and we'll like go a few different restaurants and things like that. Like Starbucks will do this where they have like their little paninis and stuff. At the end of the day, they're not going to use them anymore, and so they're going to throw them away and they'll give them to you. And so we've gone and we've just found people and you know, handed those out and things like that. But apart from that individual small scale stuff, from in my opinion, where you know maybe you spend a couple hours doing this, the other stuff has been through like larger charities. But from what you've described, it sounds like it's this is a different thing, and I'm trying to figure out if there's something, if I'm naive in thinking maybe something doesn't exist like this where I live, and how I would go about starting something like this or finding something like this where you're not getting into some of the larger, more, I don't know, administrative, bureaucratic type of setups that are usually kind of cooperating with authorities, and you end up with some different entanglements there.
One easy way is to go on your Facebook and type in homeless outreach.
Okay.
And you'll find some in your area.
Okay.
And then connect with them and see how you can best serve them.
Okay. Simple enough. And then if I don't find anything, then I know there's a need, right? Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Cool. And, you know, one of the things, you know, I got a couple things. One, me, because I'm me, I'm like, move to Madison County, come up here, Tag, come with your people. You know, there's all kinds of land around here, but you already live kind of on the south side. So have you looked like in between like the south side of Indianapolis and like Martinsville, down in that direction?
Finances is the issue.
It's always the issue.
Yeah, exactly. But the land is there. You just got to have the money that people's. You've seen where I live. There's a big empty lot right across the street from me. Now I could get a homeless thing there, but just for that one small spot, I think they're wanting close to $1 million for it.
Wow.
So I mean, it's
definitely
finances
get outside
is your issue.
Indianapolis.
Yeah, far enough to where if I needed to do some sort of transit to a local bus stop, I could still do that. Tell them, hey, these are the schedules. You want to leave? Let's go. You want to be back? You be back at this spot at this time. We'll bring you if you can.
Yeah. Do
it 2-3 times a day. Whatever it is to get them away from all the craziness in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
If you don't, the old saying, build it and they will come, kind of works. But build it and they will come unless they're addicted to something, then they'll go to their dealer. So you got to keep them away from that dealer some way till they can get sober to the point where they don't, and keep them occupied doing other things.
Right.
But before they can go back downtown and then they see their dealer like, and we don't need you now. I mean, we're better.
Sure.
We're building our lives. We're seeing our brothers. We're seeing our cousins. We're seeing our babies again for the first time in 5 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that having like just thinking about just thinking about like what you've talked about and how like you would have this other land somewhere, and my guess is you're going to have to continue to like do what you're doing now for a while and then just like step them to the property. You've shown me that you're all right. I want you to come check out what I got. Maybe take them there, show them what you've got going on, tell them the rules, and say, hey, if you want to take a step out of that culture, this is your chance. Come on with me. And so
this sounds a little crazy what I want to do, but with the land, I want to give an area a little bit bigger than a jail cell per person. I mean, or the size of a dog kennel. I want about 4 times that per place, and I want each person's area to be fenced in with a gate and a lock where people can't get in their stuff. Because that's another thing. For some reason, homeless people like to steal from homeless people.
From each other, yeah.
Yeah. So, and they will be responsible for that area, for them to keep it clean, for them to keep their grass cut in there. Whatever if they want to tear up all the grass and put AstroTurf down, fine. I don't care. I'm going a little extreme there, but it will be their area to take care of. And once that I see that they're continuously taking care of that and keeping their area clean and keeping their tent clean, that's when they would move into the shelter for a little while. And then once they've proved themselves inside the shelter, gone through some programs, that's when they get their tiny house. And they can stay in that tiny house for a couple of years until they build their life back. I want to help them get bank accounts. Again, that falls on needing ID and everything else. But there's just so much stuff that can be done to improve people's lives that people aren't actually trying to do. Government, again, if out of sight, out of mind, and that's exactly what they're doing with this housing first. They're putting them. 2 of my friends, they got into housing and they were sober. They were hooked on meth when they lived with me. I moved them in from off the streets for about 6 to 8 months. I can't remember exactly how long before they finally had an housing option. When they got the tour, the lady who worked for the outreach group that gave them the tour said, and if you guys are doing drugs, and they told them, no, we're clean. Well, if you decide to, again, we can get you clean needles. Okay, so you're going to tell an ex-addict, yeah, I know, right, Chad? You're going to tell an ex-addict who says he's been clean for 6 months that if you want to fall off the wagon, we'll give you some needles for it. Come on now. That's just basically pushing it damn near right in front of their face.
It's like, don't drink and drive, but if you do, drink a couple of cups of coffee before you go out and drive so that you can look alert.
Right.
Take a breath mint so you don't.
So and that's the case with a lot of the housing too. All they're doing is giving people an inside place to do what they're doing outside, so people can't see it.
Well, and I think too, so it seems like there's and that's what I was saying, like that there's that like kind of that razor's edge between having a life, and then a few things happen and it starts this downward spiral, and it can accelerate really quickly.
It can.
And then you have this huge wall with no access. That is how you have to get up. And so it's just easier to stay outside. But if you can do this where you allow like a little foothold here, and then, okay, you've established your foothold there. Now there's a foothold here. You can start to scale that wall, and it makes it sort of manageable, and it doesn't look as daunting because you're just trying to get from one step to the next. I really love that idea. That's outstanding.
And Chad, to be honest with you right now, Indiana, I don't know if it's every state, but I know Indiana has a thing where right now you can't be evicted from your house. Right now, and this is about to end, but right now they can't shut your power off because you haven't paid your bill.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of new homeless people come come time for
Yeah.
these things to end.
No, that's no
Because
joke.
there's people now that are 3 months behind on their rent. They
Oh,
can't pay that.
yeah, and this is not sort of rent or utility amnesty. This is just a delay, and then
Yeah.
when the delay is over, all of the stuff that you're behind on is due at once.
Well, I'm sure that can be worked out with the utilities.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of that stuff where you can kind of work your way into it, levelized billing or whatever. But my point is, you don't get to not pay that. You still have to.
Right.
You still have to pay it, and if you haven't been getting paid, then the little brief time where you've been, you had a little
breather.
I don't know, a little grace period is going to be hardly any solace when you still have to pay that bill and you're still not getting paid.
Yeah, just to give an example of how that's insurmountable, really. Last year, okay, I actually rent my home. I rent it from in-laws, so I can do all kinds of crap like grow a garden and all that. But last year, I was struggling because of personal issues, job stuff, all of that. I was struggling. So I got 2 months behind on my rent, okay? It took me until almost December to get caught back up. That's with an understanding landlord that let me start because I started making money again in September.
Mm-hmm.
So I started, I work for a school system, so that's why the summer was a pain in the ass, long story. Anyway, so in September, I started paying extra money every month to pay off 2 months, but it took me till December, and that's me just like cutting my grocery budget back, cutting everything so that we could pay these things. I sold a van to buy Christmas, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to, because I was catching up on my bills. And I am diligent at paying my bills. My wife has a job and goes every time. So it took us together basically 4 months to get caught back up diligently after 2 months. These people may not be as diligent as I am. I don't know. I'm not trying to judge.
And if they don't have the income, that's
right?
the thing. If
Yeah,
you don't have the
I have
income,
a pretty good job.
my brother just got, they had 2 people at where he works. 2 people got laid off, and he wasn't one of them, but he got his salary cut by 25%. And there's no end in sight to that. And so, like, you get to that point, and that's the other thing. Like, that's what I was saying. So much of this stuff, we're born into, millions of dollars in debt, because that's just how this Federal Reserve System is set up.
Right.
Then you compound that with there's this consumer and debt culture that we live in, and this keeping up with the Joneses sort of way that things are you're kind of pressured into having things that you probably don't
social
need.
Norms.
Yeah, to meet those societal norms, exactly. And you have a lot of
Nico, back in the day, we used to call that keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
You're a little young, you don't know that.
Yeah, and I caught
Right.
the reference as soon as he made that.
Right.
As soon as he started making the parallels, I was like,
But
that's what
but yeah, so you have all that, and so like you were saying, Marcus, when you put yourself in a position where you have the house that the house that your wife wanted, or whatever the case may be, and you have the car that you wanted, or whatever it is, and then something like this happens that nobody saw this coming, in October of last year. So let's say you made a decision to do a bunch of stuff in October, and then boom, all this stuff hits. Now there's all this stress, and now so like you can see it coming. You've already lost your job. You're going to lose your house. You and your wife are fighting. Now she left you. She's going and she's living with her parents. And you know what I mean? It's not, that's what I'm saying. It ain't that far for a lot of us between where we are right now and being on the street.
For sure. Absolutely. And you're right.
And having those addictions and those other things as a coping mechanism to deal with the pain and the loss and the grief and everything that comes with all that stuff. And the hopelessness.
I got a question for Nico when you guys get a second.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Hey, you're in Chicago, right?
Yes, sir.
How is the Katy epidemic there?
The Katy epidemic?
Yeah.
I'm ignorant to the term Katie. Karen or Katie?
I don't-
I've been kind of locked into my room, so it's like a lot of the things that have been popping up have been going over my head. I've been like focusing on other things. But if we're talking about like the homeless situation,
No,
it's
Katie as
interesting.
in spice to K2. It's a drug.
That actually I like I said, my head's been under the covers. It's like I haven't heard much of the there's been things wrong with like K2 isn't weed, right? The K2 that's been messing people up.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I bought it once off of a CTA and it messed me up. I'll tell you that. But other than that, I honestly don't know. And actually, going back to that, right? Going back to that time on our CTAs and going downtown, especially on the red line. The red line is absolutely, I wouldn't say terrible, but it's not the line you want to get on. And all it is you'd see either homeless people staying on the trains. They'd be like, it's littered. I'm on 95th, so like I'm right off of 95th, and it's just littered with homeless people. So it's like, since it's a 24-hour service, they get on the trains and they sleep on that train. And like some nights it gets bad to the point where like I'm actually coming home from a bar and it's 3 a.m. and they're on like the very, very end of the carts and they're doing something and we're just sitting there waiting for the police to come do something. And so I've legit sit to a CTA until from 3 to like I think 5, like from stops because of different homeless people. And like them having to stop and them getting the police on there, having them like try and de-escalate the situation and have them move. But other than the weed, I don't know. I have a good dealer. So.
Well, Katie is a synthetic weed. It actually started out as a potpourri, and people started smoking it and getting high, and now they're putting all kinds of chemicals and stuff on it. But the reason why I asked that, we have a bad epidemic for Katie in Indianapolis. And I wholeheartely believe it's because marijuana is still illegal in Indiana.
Yeah. I was going to say, is that the stuff that like eats out your sinuses and stuff like that? And like it'll like.
It can, but they're putting bug spray and everything else on it now, which is making it even worse.
God,
people walking around like zombies. But Chicago being in a state where marijuana is legal, I was wondering if it died down a little bit. Because when you're on probation, you fail a piss test for marijuana, you're in trouble. There's no test for Katie right now. Yeah. So that's why everybody started smoking Katie. So
they actually had a lot of athletes that were doing that back, 10 years ago or so, or maybe more, who were doing that to get by the drug tests and stuff. And then they started testing for that because they caught on. And so that kind of went away for them.
That's always been the case, though, with prohibition, is that it's
always a workaround.
And the easiest way to explain to the newbies, we all understand this, but to explain to a newbie that might be watching this, Chad's not a smoker, but
I don't do any. I mean, the alcohol is probably worse, but I that's the only thing I've ever done.
I'm a non-smoker as well. It's not worth my job.
Yeah, that's me.
I support marijuana. My wife's a pothead, but I'm not.
Yeah, I can't. I'm the same way.
Supporter of it. It helps me out.
I smoked 2 months out of the year.
Anyway, go ahead, Marcus. You were talking about prohibition and what happened.
Yeah, I was going to say the best explanation for newbies of why we need to at least legalize marijuana, and I would actually legalize all drugs. I don't believe that any kind of prohibition works, but the particularly with marijuana is if I am in, say, Washington State, I have a friend, and for that matter, Chad has a friend named Jacob who owns a store, a dispensary in Washington. If I go to Jacob and I say, man, I need something that takes care of my pain, Jacob will go up to his wall and go, you need this one, maybe about this much, and he hands me that. In Indiana, because it's illegal, if I'm like, I need something for pain, and I go to my dealer and say, hey, so-and-so, I need something for pain, he'll say, I got this, but it's not going to help your pain. I do have some heroin. That'll help your pain all to beat all hell. And that's the difference between legalized and not legalized, is that in a legalized state, you can choose what the hell you want. In a non-legalized state, you're being put into a position to where the same people who handle your weed also handle heroin, crank, any number of any other drugs. So for those,
well, and it also creates that because you had the same thing with alcohol prohibition, where you had, you know, the moonshine, you know, guys off the side, and they had like turpentine, and people were going blind and stuff, you know, like it's so crazy because the idea is like, oh, well, we need to regulate this. Like, no, if you just like didn't make it illegal, where people had to like hide and like do it when nobody's looking, and then like create all these little ways, shortcuts and stuff to make it. And the other thing is too, so like if you make the shortcuts to where you have to make it to be able to hide, and also to be able to, maybe it's, you know, avoid detection, have it not show up on a test, or whatever the case may be, you get all those side effects. Then the other part of it is, what's the best way to traffic the stuff if you want to avoid police interference, to avoid the authorities? Women and children. So you end up with drug mules. You end up with kids with backpacks on the street corners, getting shot in drive-bys, or getting shot when something goes bad, or somebody running by and trying to steal the backpack off the kid, or whatever the case may be. You had the same thing in Prohibition. You had kids carrying stuff, you know, having like a rack on the back of their bicycle, or whatever the case may be. It always is going to it's going to create these negative side effects that, to me, just like with the stuff that we're seeing right now with all this COVID stuff, the prescription is worse than what you're trying to cure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think the homeless are the first indication, I think, of where we're going to go. I've been saying for some time that the outcome, whatever you think, whatever anyone thinks about what COVID is or what it was, the real economic impact isn't going to hit us for probably another month or 2 months now. Because once businesses, I'm already seeing them closing down. Once those businesses are gone, they're not coming back.
Yeah, and you know, to this thing I was talking about before, with like how close people are, like, I don't know how many small business owners, like somebody who owned a small business 6 months ago, maybe on the streets in 6 months.
Yeah.
Like literally on the streets, not just the figurative, you know, they lost their business, but they lost everything, because a lot of people, they've put everything into that. They've second mortgaged their house to help pay for some of that stuff. And their business
was their paycheck.
Right. Exactly.
They don't have a paycheck to fall back on.
Right. Exactly.
So the chickens aren't going to roost yet.
Right. I hate to be rude, but I need to get out of here.
Awesome. That's good. The timing's perfect because we all got to go too. So this is awesome.
And I appreciate you guys having me on here. Those of you watching, please follow the links that Marcus put up for Hearts and Hand Homeless Outreach on Facebook. And if you feel so inclined, like I said, every $2 counts. Feel free to donate to my PayPal. And if you wanted to go to a specific thing, tell me, hey, here's $20. I want you to buy socks with it. That $20 will go for socks. I promise you that.
Perfect.
If you want to give me 100 and say buy chickens with it, motherfucker, I'm buying chickens with $100.
There you go. And I want to update this. I want to update this in a few months if Marcus is so inclined. I want to do, because I want to do my own research about what I can do to do something in my area, but I also want to check in with you, because I want to see where some of the things that we're talking about, how things have changed, and what we need to do to kind of, you know, maybe redirect some of that energy and everything to help out even more. So I appreciate you very much for coming on.
Unless I get proper funding, it's going to be a couple years before I can get my land and everything. That's my end goal, is to have that. Once I get that, I can change some lives. Right now I'm changing a few, but I can change many with property.
Damn right. All right.
Well, thanks, Tag, for coming on. And this has been a good one. I want to, beyond Give to Tag, give to Tag, give to Tag. Get Hearts and Hands some money. Beyond that, like, share this. Let other people know that Hearts and Hand works. That I see these people every weekend out there doing this stuff, helping people.
I do want to say one more thing real quick, Marcus. You're showing people out of state of this also, right? Not just Indiana. Okay, if you don't want to donate to me, find a local small group that does the same thing I do and donate to them. All right?
I'm gonna donate
Plain
to
and
you
simple,
anyway.
help
Though.
your neighborhood.
I'm gonna donate to you anyway.
I appreciate that. Hey,
Right
you guys
on.
have a good day and be safe.
Thank you,
too.
brother.
Talk to you later, Tag. Bye.
Bless 'em.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for paying attention. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing wrapped up. And I appreciate Tag coming on here with us. It has been a good one. And I think that good information, and just keep at it and stay free, my friends. Thanks, Nico. Thanks, Chad. And we'll talk to you next week. Next week, it's G.I. Mary Jane, by the way.
Oh, hell yeah. All right.
Ooh, cool.
Cool. Talk to y'all later.